Welcome to No Human Left Behind, AI the podcast. In today's episode, a conversation on natural language processing.
All right, so today we're going deep into natural language processing, NLP.
NLP, yeah.
Got some really interesting articles and research you sent over, so I'm ready to unpack this with you. It's wild to think we're teaching computers to understand us, way beyond just basic commands. This isn't about, robots taking over the world. It's more about them helping us with, writing that perfect email or finally understanding what our partners are actually saying.
That's it. That's the core of it. Giving computers the ability to, not just process words, but actually understand the complexities of human language.
Yeah.
It's about bridging that gap between how we talk and how machines process information.
And from what I've been reading, this isn't like some sci-fi fantasy anymore.
Yeah.
Sentiment analysis, chatbots, they're here and they're getting really good.
Yeah.
So where do we even start with all this?
Well, one of the most fascinating things about NLP is just how multidisciplinary it is. It's not just computer science. It pulls from linguistics, from statistics, even cognitive science, to really get how our brains work with language.
So a real team effort then.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to cover in this deep dive. From the basics like tokenization to building those chatbots we were just mentioning. What really jumped out at you from all this material?
But what's fascinating is that NLP is already having a real impact. You might not even realize it. Like, think about those customer service chatbots.
Oh, yeah.
They're everywhere now. Or the way doctors are using NLP to look at medical records.
Oh, wow.
Or even financial analysts using it to predict the market.
So it's way more a part of our lives than I even realized.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break down some of those foundational concepts. Keep seeing tokenization everywhere. What's that all about?
Tokenization is essentially, it's like teaching a computer to read.
Okay.
But at a very, very basic level. Breaking text down into individual words, tokens, so the computer can start to analyze them.
So it's like giving the computer building blocks.
Exactly, yeah. But it's not always as straightforward as it sounds.
Yeah, I know that.
You've got languages that don't use spaces between words.
Right.
Then you've got all the punctuation, contractions.
Yeah.
Those little quirks we have in English, those can really mess things up.
I can imagine. Even the simple stuff is hard for a machine.
Yeah.
And then there's stemming and lemmatization. Those sounded pretty intimidating to me.
They do sound similar, but they both, essentially, they help prepare text for analysis.
Okay.
By getting to the root of a word. So imagine, like running. Stemming just chops off the ing so you get run.
Right.
It's fast, but it's not always accurate.
So like a shortcut, but you might miss some nuance.
Right.
Okay.
Lemmatization, though, that's more methodical. It uses like a dictionary. It looks at the structure to get the base form, the lemma. So it recognizes that running comes from to run. More accurate, but it takes longer.
So it depends if you need speed or if you need that precision. How are these techniques actually used practically?
Well, think about search engines.
Yeah.
If you're looking for running shoes, a search engine using stemming or lemmatization can also show you results for run because it knows they're related.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's just one example of how these seemingly small steps can make a huge difference.
Right. And it probably helps with other stuff too, like filtering spam or organizing tons of data.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've broken down words. What about understanding how they relate to each other in a sentence?
So that's where part of speech tagging and parsing come in.
Okay.
Part of speech tagging, it's like labeling each word with its grammatical role.
Yeah.
Noun, verb, adjective, and so on.
Yeah.
It helps the computer see the basic structure.
So if I'm picturing this right, it's like color coding a sentence, highlighting the different parts of speech.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
It helps the computer understand how those words are connected. And then you have parsing, which takes it even further. It analyzes the entire structure of a sentence. It's like figuring out the blueprint of a sentence, showing how phrases and clauses fit together.
So not just recognizing words, but seeing the sentence as a structured unit.
Exactly. And this is essential for more complex tasks.
Okay.
Like machine translation, for example, relies heavily on that to accurately convert meaning from one language to another.
It's crazy how all these techniques build on each other, giving the computer a crash course in linguistics.
Yeah.
But words and sentences are only part of it, right?
Right.
What about actually extracting specific information, like identifying names, dates, or figuring out the relationships between different things in the text.
Yeah, so that's where named entity recognition comes in, NER.
NER.
This is how a computer learns to spot those key bits of information.
Yeah, okay.
It's like teaching a computer to recognize the VIPs in a sentence. The people, the places, the organizations.
So it's not just about recognizing words, it's understanding their roles and relationships in context.
Exactly. And then we have relationship extraction, which builds on that, to figure out how those entities are connected.
Okay.
So think about, like, Marie Curie was born in Warsaw. Relationship extraction wouldn't just identify those as entities, but also determine that the relationship was born in.
It's like teaching a computer to build a network of knowledge from the information. That's incredible.
It is, yeah. And it's got huge implications for things like building those knowledge bases, answering questions based on complex info, even summarizing large amounts of text.
Wow.
We're basically going from unstructured text to structured data the computer can actually use.
This is blowing my mind. So we've covered how computers break down text, understand grammar, and even extract information. But what about understanding the actual meaning behind the words? That seems like the ultimate goal of NLP, right?
Absolutely. And that's where we get into word embeddings. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because we're teaching computers to understand words, kind of like how our brains do it.
So how does that even work? I mean, how do you turn the meaning of a word into something a computer can understand?
So imagine representing words as points in a multidimensional space.
Okay.
Words that have similar meanings would be clustered closer together in this space. And this is done by converting words into numerical vectors.
So like happy and joyful would be closer together than happy and miserable.
Exactly, yeah. And what's amazing is that these word embeddings can capture some really complex relationships.
Yeah.
There's that classic example. King is to man as queen is to woman. Word embeddings can actually capture those analogical relationships.
That's incredible, like mapping a universe of meaning, where a word's location tells you how it relates to other words.
That's a great way to think about it, yeah.
Wow.
And this has huge implications because these word embeddings become like powerful tools for things like machine translation, sentiment analysis, even text generation.
It's amazing to think how far we've come from simple text processing to capturing the essence of meaning.
Yeah,
But
it is amazing.
there's one thing I'm really curious about. Can computers go beyond understanding what we're saying and actually grasp our opinions and feelings? That seems like another level of human complexity.
You're right, but that's exactly what sentiment analysis and opinion mining are all about.
Okay.
We're teaching computers to read between the lines, understand the emotional tone, the opinions expressed in text.
So being able to tell if someone's happy, sad, angry, sarcastic.
Exactly, and it can even beyond just positive or negative.
Yeah.
Some systems can detect specific emotions, joy, sadness, anger, fear.
Wow.
And this has some really valuable applications.
Like imagine businesses being able to actually understand how people feel about their products.
Absolutely. Sentiment analysis is being used for like monitoring brand reputation, analyzing customer reviews, even understanding public opinion on social media. It's a powerful tool for gauging how people feel about pretty much anything.
But language is so nuanced. How do these systems deal with things like sarcasm, irony, or even just negativity expressed in creative ways? I mean, think about all the slang and internet speak we use.
Yeah, those are definitely challenges.
Yeah.
Sarcasm, irony, those are notoriously difficult because they rely on context and they often contradict the literal meaning of the words.
Yeah. It seems like those are areas where human intuition and understanding still have a big advantage.
For now, yes.
Okay.
But researchers are working on improving those algorithms, especially with deep learning, which lets computers learn those complex patterns from massive data.
Well, this has been an incredible overview so far. We've covered so much, breaking down text, understanding meaning, even emotions.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there's still a lot more to explore.
Yeah, we've only scratched the surface of some pretty big topics. Next, we'll dive into some of the most exciting and transformative areas of NLP: machine translation, the rise of large language models, the future of conversational AI.
Sounds exciting.
It's going to get really interesting. We were just talking about computers understanding emotions.
Right, yeah.
And it's a perfect lead-in to something that I think has always, captured our imaginations, machine translation. The idea that tech can break down those language barriers.
Oh, for sure.
It's really exciting and something that researchers have been working on for a long time.
I remember those early online translators. They were more likely to make you laugh than actually give you a good translation. But from what I've read, things have come a long way.
Yeah.
What's driving progress?
The real game changer has been neural machine translation, NMT.
NMT.
And it's like a totally different approach from those, early rule-based systems.
Right.
Instead of trying to program all the grammar rules and exceptions,
Yeah.
NMT uses these deep neural networks to learn how to translate by analyzing tons of data.
So it's like teaching a computer by showing it lots of examples of good translations.
Exactly. So we feed these neural networks huge amounts of text that's already been translated by humans.
Okay. Called parallel corpora. The network learns to find patterns of relationships between the source and target languages. It's basically building its own map of how languages connect.
And that leads to a big improvement in translation quality.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. NMT has been a revolution. Translations are way more fluent, more accurate. They capture nuances that those old systems could never get. Think about what this means for communication, for accessing information.
Right.
We can connect with people and cultures across the globe in a way that was never possible before.
It's straight out of sci-fi.
Yeah.
But are there still challenges with machine translation?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, language is so complex, it's constantly changing. One of the biggest challenges is handling rare words or specialized terms.
Okay.
If a word or phrase isn't in the training data very often, the system might not translate it well.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Like trying to learn a new language by only reading children's books, you'll miss a lot of the vocab you need to really communicate. Exactly. And then there's adapting to different styles.
Yeah.
A formal paper is going to use very different language than, a chat with friends.
For sure.
NMT systems need to recognize those variations to make sure the translation makes sense for the context.
So context is key here, just like for us when we're talking to each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we're seeing amazing progress, but there's still room for improvement. What are researchers focusing on to make things even better?
One really exciting area is low-resource language translation.
Okay.
There are thousands of languages spoken in the world, but a lot of them don't have much digital text available.
Right.
So it's hard to train those NMT systems.
That's a big problem if we want to make translation truly universal.
Yeah, it is. So researchers are looking at ways to train models with less data. One approach is transfer learning, where a model is trained on like a high-resource language pair,
Okay.
and then fine-tuned on a low-resource one. It's like learning the basics of driving on an automatic car and then switching to a stick shift.
I like that analogy. So what about those large language models? We hear so much about those. Where do they fit into all this?
Large language models are really changing things. They're trained on massive amounts of text data. We're talking billions of words.
Wow.
This lets them develop a really deep understanding of language, structure, meaning, even those nuances of human communication.
Like GPT-3 and the newer ones.
Yeah, exactly.
They're always making headlines. What makes them so powerful?
One of the most amazing things is their ability to learn new tasks without much training. You give them a few examples and they figure out what you want.
So it's not just learning specific tasks, they're learning how to learn.
Exactly. This is huge for NLP and beyond.
Yeah.
Imagine describing what you want in normal language, and the computer gets it. Like having a personal assistant that understands everything no matter how complex.
That's exciting and a little scary at the same time. Is this true AI or just really, really good mimicry?
That's a question people are still debating. Yeah. But whatever you call it, these models can do some mind-blowing things, generating realistic text, translating languages, writing creative stuff, answering questions even if they're open-ended, challenging.
It sounds like a whole new era of how we interact with computers, but with all that power comes responsibility, right?
Right.
I imagine there are some ethical concerns with these models.
Definitely. As they get more powerful, we have to think about the potential for misuse,
Right.
like generating fake news or propaganda.
Yeah, scary stuff.
Yeah, it's something we really need to be careful about.
So it's not just about making them bigger and better, but making sure they're used for good.
Exactly. We need safeguards and guidelines, make sure these technologies are used responsibly and ethically.
It's a tough balance between what's possible and what we need to be careful of.
It is. And this is where that interdisciplinary side of NLP is so important.
Right.
We need people from all sorts of fields, ethics, philosophy, social sciences, to work together to make sure these technologies benefit everyone.
Well, this has definitely got me thinking about where NLP is going. It's clear we're on the edge of some massive changes.
We are. And one area where that's super clear is conversational AI.
Yeah, those chatbots we talked about before,
Right.
they're getting really good.
They are, yeah.
We talked about the difference between task-oriented and open domain bots. What are the challenges with those open domain ones, the ones that are supposed to hold a real conversation?
One of the biggest is maintaining a coherent dialogue.
Okay.
Like, imagine talking to someone who jumps between topics randomly. It'd be pretty frustrating.
Yeah, you wouldn't know what they were trying to say.
Exactly. And that's a problem for a lot of chatbots.
Right.
They can't really remember what's been said.
Oh, interesting.
And their responses might be relevant to the immediate question, but not to the whole conversation.
So it's like they have a short-term memory problem for conversations.
Yeah, kind of. Another big one is understanding nuanced language, like sarcasm, humor, metaphors.
Yeah, we use those all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And they're really hard for chatbots.
I guess that's because those things need you to understand context, culture, even psychology.
Exactly. That's really hard to program.
Right.
We learn that stuff from a lifetime of experience.
Yeah.
It's not just the words, it's the unspoken rules.
So we're a long way from those human-like AI companions in the movies.
Yeah, we are. But even with the challenges, there's been huge progress. Deep learning has helped create chatbots that learn from tons of human conversations, picking up on those patterns and nuances.
So they're learning by example, like we do.
Exactly. And as they see more data, they get better at responding in ways that are not just relevant, but also engaging, even funny sometimes.
That's cool. Imagine an AI that can give information, but also support you, be creative, or just listen.
That's what a lot of researchers are working towards.
Wow.
We're not there yet,
Okay.
but the progress is incredible.
This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to what NLP can do. But like we've been talking about, there are those ethical things we can't ignore.
Absolutely. Like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Right.
We have to make sure it benefits everyone and doesn't lead to unintended consequences.
So it's not just about the tech itself, but the values behind it and how we use it.
Exactly. NLP can amplify the best and the worst parts of us. We have to make sure it creates a future we're all happy with.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation, and I'm ready to explore even more. What else is coming up in NLP?
Well, we've covered a lot, but there's still so much to talk about. Next, we'll look at the future of NLP, the quest for deeper understanding, more natural interaction, and how it can change the way we live, work, and connect.
It's incredible to think how far we've come with NLP. From processing text to machines that can translate languages, understand emotions, and even write creatively.
Yeah, it really shows how creative people are and how we're always trying to understand language. And we're only getting started. The future of NLP is full of potential, pushing those boundaries even further.
What's next? What are researchers excited about in NLP?
One area that's really interesting is the quest for deeper language understanding. We've talked about how machines are getting better at getting meaning and context, but there's still a long way to go before they truly get the nuances of how we communicate.
Like those challenges with sarcasm, humor, and metaphors, they need a kind of world knowledge and understanding of psychology that goes beyond just looking at patterns in text.
Right. Think about how much common sense we use when we talk. We make inferences, we understand things that aren't directly said, we use our shared culture. Teaching a machine to do all that is a huge challenge.
So how are researchers tackling this?
One way is by giving NLP models more real-world knowledge. Instead of just text, we're starting to feed them information about the world, like facts, relationships, even common sense reasoning. The goal is to create models that understand language more holistically, not just the words, but the worlds those words represent.
It's like giving them a crash course in being human.
You could say that. And this is leading to some cool stuff in question answering and dialogue systems. Imagine asking a machine a complex question that needs reasoning and common sense, and it gives you a smart answer.
That would change everything, like having a library of knowledge combined with human-like reasoning.
Exactly. And this deeper understanding is also key for making human-computer interaction more natural. We talked about chatbots, but imagine interacting with machines using language just as easily as talking to a person.
That's amazing. What else is on the horizon for NLP? Anything you're particularly excited about?
One thing that's really taking off is combining NLP with other AI fields. Like we mentioned before, imagine the power of language understanding with computer vision.
A computer that understands text and images and videos.
That's it. It opens up so many possibilities for more natural interaction. Imagine searching the internet with text and images, or having a virtual assistant that understands your words and recognizes things around you.
Like combining different senses for a richer understanding of the world.
Exactly. This is leading to big advancements in robotics, healthcare, education, all sorts of things.
This whole deep dive has been so insightful. It's clear that NLP is changing so fast and could change how we interact with technology and each other.
It really is. But we need to remember that the future of NLP isn't set in stone. It's something we're all shaping with the choices we make.
How so?
How we design these systems, the data we use, the applications we choose, all these things has ethical implications. We have to make sure NLP is used ethically, promotes fairness, and helps create a better world.
So it's not just the technology, but the values we build into it.
Absolutely. NLP can amplify the best and worst parts of us. It's our responsibility to make sure it's used to create a future we can all be proud of.
This conversation has given me so much to think about. It's exciting to see what NLP can do, but it's a good reminder to approach it thoughtfully and responsibly.
I agree. It's an ongoing discussion that needs people from all sorts of backgrounds and fields to contribute.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to consider. What final thought would you leave them with as they keep exploring NLP?
Stay curious, keep asking questions, and remember that the future of NLP isn't happening to us. It's something we're all creating together.
That's a great point. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into natural language processing. It's been a fascinating journey.
It has, and this is just the beginning. Who knows what amazing discoveries are waiting for us in the future?